Okay guys, welcome back. We are now on video 4 and we are discussing the water diamond paradox. Now this is massive for us. Now what's a paradox? Paradox is something that is illogical. And anytime you have something like water, which is essential to life, is cheaper than diamonds, which are not essential, it seems illogical, doesn't it? I mean, if aliens were to land and they're saying, wait a minute, you can walk up to somebody's house, knock on the door, and say, can I have a glass of water? And they'll give you one just fine when water is so essential to life. But if you said to them, give me your diamond, they call the cops. How does that work, right? Well, there are specific explanations. So let's read this highlighted portion here. Why are diamonds, which are not essential to life whatsoever, so expensive when water, which is essential to life, is so cheap? So this is really at the crux of what we are saying here. Water is more useful. Useful. That's interesting. What kind of utility is this we're talking about? Marginal utility is always the key and is necessary for human life. Yet diamonds are valued more highly, right? What's happening? Well, we're going to go over the solution in a minute, but if you look at this here a little bit, you can see how water is going to have a price that is very much lower than diamonds, even though it shouldn't be the case because nobody needs diamonds to survive, but everybody needs water. So if we look at it here, just to kind of give you a bit of an understanding, in a numerical example, the marginal utility of water is 1, but the marginal utility of diamonds is 15. So the consumer is willing to pay 15 times as much for a diamond as for water. But if we really think about it, that's not true. Because this one says in reality, it's more like 67,000 times more. If you were to compare, a drop of water with a carat of diamonds, you can see that we are paying thousands of times more for diamonds than we are of water. Now, why is that the case? Well, this is why. Scarcity is one reason. Marginal utility is the other reason. So what is scarcity? Scarcity is there just isn't enough. I mean, look, if we wake up tomorrow and diamonds are like scattered on the streets like pebbles, they're not going to be valuable anymore. Nowhere near, right? There won't be any jewelry stores that sell them because they are simply too abundant. So how abundant? Now, water is abundant despite the fact that only 2% of all the water on the surface of the earth is actually fresh water, and despite the fact that maybe less than 1% of that is accessible, we're still looking at an abundance of water. Now imagine a world like Mad Max, right? A world where, frankly, we're afraid of this world now as we're hitting ever worse droughts. Water is rising in price, and at some point, people will give all the diamonds in the world to have more water, and we wouldn't care about that anymore. So clearly, scarcity is one issue. So the first explanation, or the first part of the explanation, is that water is abundant, but diamonds are scarce. Now, in reality, white diamonds in particular are specifically made to be scarce to increase the value of diamonds, which is why a lot of people are no longer really buying diamonds. They're like, I don't really care about that. Or they will buy a lab produced diamond that is much cheaper. There are more diamonds in the world than is available on the market, but it's controlled mostly by a company that's called De Beers. They control about 90% of the diamonds in the world, which makes them an oligopoly of some sort. We will come to this in the future. But basically, they have lots of diamonds in vaults, and they only distribute to 12 distributors in the world, and they make sure that they release only a few diamonds at a time on purpose to keep the price high. Now, marginal utility is the other reason. The marginal utility of diamonds is greater than the marginal utility of water. What does that mean? Okay, you're thirsty. I give you a glass of water. You drink it down. How satisfying is it to drink a cold, sweating glass of water in summer when we were thirsty and hot? Extremely, one of the most enjoyable things. So your first glass of water has very, very high value. The total utility of that water is definitely high. When I give you another 16 ounces of water to drink immediately, the second glass of water has significantly less satisfaction. Once you satiate that thirst and you try to drink some more, it could be even nauseating. It could make you feel like you're getting a stomach ache. It's like, oh, no, I don't really want to keep drinking more water. So basically, the second glass of water is going to be lowering the total utility from the first glass of water. But if you were to look at the diamonds here, now imagine you go to the store to buy a diamond and you find out you can buy two. For whatever reason, they're going to give you a second one highly discounted. You end up with two. The second diamond has even a higher marginal utility than the first. You're like, oh my God, two? This adds to my cache of treasure, of wealth, right? So the second one is going to raise the total utility from the first one. So if we were to look at this here a little bit, we will see that the smaller marginal benefit leads to a lower price for water, but the bigger marginal benefit is going to lead to a higher price for diamonds. So the reason why anybody ever pays more for a second, third, or fourth is going to be because the marginal utility is higher. So if I said to you, I bought a second piano, and I paid more for my second piano than my first piano. What does that mean? What's the explanation? The explanation is simply the marginal utility from the second piano is higher for me. Because maybe when I was first learning, I bought a dingy, kind of not so great piano that doesn't sound wonderful. But now that I am a proficient player, I go and I invest in a more sophisticated piano because I want the sounds that I produce to be better so I can showcase my skill, right? So I'm paying more for that second piano. That means the marginal utility, the amount of additional satisfaction I derive from sitting at that piano and playing it is greater. Now, what if I told you I bought a second piano, but I spent less for it than the first? Most likely the marginal utility from the second piano is lower. So maybe what happened is I have a first piano, it's fantastic, and it's in my living room and it's big. But I also want a piano in my office. So I'm not going to use it as often as my main piano at home where I sit and I play for a good half an hour to an hour each day. I just wanted to tinker around and maybe think through as I'm playing my keys in my office, and my office is smaller. And so I go and I invest in an upright, smaller piano instead of a grand piano. That tells you that the additional satisfaction I get from the second piano, the marginal utility, is lower than the first. That is the explanation anytime somebody does that. If we pay more for the second, it's higher marginal utility. If we pay less for the second or the third, any subsequent one, then it tells you it is rather lower. So that's the explanation. That's what explains. So the marginal utility of diamonds is bigger and it's more scarce. The marginal utility of water is lower and it's more abundant. That's the solution for it. Now, let's look at this for a minute. We have something in economics called relative marginal utility. It's more commonly called equating marginal utility per dollar. What does it mean to be equating? I always tell you to slow down and look at the language. And maybe because English is my third language and I learned over the years to mind the details of a new language when I'm learning it, I don't know, but I have found it very, very helpful to stop for a minute and look at what words are saying to you. To equate something is to find an equilibrium, to find in what way they are equal. The word marginal is additional, right? Or one more. So what you're saying is, if I purchase more and I'm relying on my additional utility, can I find equilibrium between the two? Because happiness in this world is imbalance, which is why it's the most difficult thing for us to create as humans is balance. Balance is something that we consider to be perfection. I want, as a buyer, to get the most equal value from all the things that I purchase. So I feel all my purchases are worth it. All my purchases are great. So we're going to see it in action. We're going to take an example where somebody goes to lunch and they buy a burger and fries. And let's say they do this over several days. Yes, they have to call their doctor after that. I get it. But for the sake of the example. So they go to buy the burger and the burger gives them 16 marginal utils. Who decided that? They did. So if I want to know how much you value a burger from, how much a Whopper from Burger King, I have to ask you. You have to tell me. I don't tell you it's 16 marginal utils. I'll say, what would you give it? This is like kind of if I said to you, okay, which one do you like better? Going to the movies or going to eat out? And you go, I don't know, maybe going to eat out. How much more? It's just kind of difficult, right? You say a lot more, a little bit more. What does that mean? But if I said to you, how many utils would you assign going to the movie theater on a scale of 1 to 10? And you say, I give it 7 points. And I go, okay, great. How many points would you assign against it to going to eat out? And you say, oh God, going to eat out, that's going to be at least 3 points more, at least. I'm going to say, oh, almost half as much. you like going, it's like top of the scale, almost half, almost 50% more you like going out to eat. Because so this gives us a sense, a better sense. Or you say, okay, I assign, or I tell you, going to the movies is worth 7 points, and you say, oh, going out to eat is 21 points, or you like it 3 times as much, right? This is what we're trying to ascertain. So you're deciding. So you decided it's 16 marginal utils. The price of the burger is $8. Okay, it's better quality meat, and there's inflation. It's $8. That means that the utility, that this fraction, this relative marginal utility is 2. 16 divided by 8 is 2. Now for the fries, you have 8 marginal utils for a price of 4. It's also 2. So let's do that. So we're looking here at equal value between these two. Right now, we have equated the marginal utility between the burger and the fries. Then we go in and we find out, oh look, burgers are on sale for $4 today. That maybe this whole week, right? And usually sales are good for a week because of the law of diminishing marginal utility. You will mind them and come back a few days in a row, but not forever. So the burger this week is down to $4. Because the price has been slashed by 50%, mathematically it makes sense that you double up on the burgers. So what's going to happen here is you're going to say, oh, wait a minute. Now 16 divided by 4 is 4, right? But 8 marginal utils for the fries divided by that $4 is going to be 2. 4 is twice as much as 2. Therefore, most likely what I'm going to do is get 2 burgers and skip the fries. Because, there's only so much I can eat. Or I continue to buy 1 fries and then I stuff myself with a second burger, because how can I pass up that price? Maybe I give it to somebody else, right? But how can I pass it up? So either we're maintaining the budget, and if you're maintaining the budget and you're spending the same amount, you buy 2 burgers and 1 fries, or you skip the fries and you just eat the 2 burgers and you are, happy for the savings. Now, what's going to happen eventually? The law of diminishing marginal utility is going to come and ruin all this for Burger King and their Whoppers. Why? Because how many days in a row or how many times can you eat burgers and just burgers? Because eventually what's going to happen is you're going to miss the fries. You're going to get sick of the burgers and you're going to miss the fries. And this marginal utility will diminish. So it goes from 16, because you started up here with 16 when you were having 1 burger, but you have too many burgers and it might diminish down to 8. And if this becomes an 8, you go back to a 2 and you find your equilibrium again, and this sale is not enticing anymore. So let me tell you something about the shopping. I do the shopping in my household, all shopping. I do everything that has to do with finances. As I'm an economist, I'm not going to help myself. Now, if I go to the store and this week, papayas are on sale, let's say, and I buy enough papayas, and next week, if they're still on sale, I really won't. Why? Because my family is not going to eat them. They're going to be like, you killed us with all the papaya last week. You gave us papaya for lunch and papaya for dinner and, for dessert. Like, dinner was followed by papaya and lunch was followed by papaya. And it's like, we don't want it anymore. It was great, but we want something else. So even though it might still be on sale, I won't respond to that because it'll end up in the trash. And that's just what happens with people. There's a limit to how much we're going to be persuaded by the price, because there are 2 values. They will bring us in because of a reduction in the price. But if our marginal utility here drops over time because we're getting sick and tired of this, well, this is why, for instance, a business eventually, like a restaurant opens and everybody rushes, and at first there's a long line, and eventually there isn't a line anymore. People go there 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, but then they say, let's not go there again. We've gone there many times. Let's go somewhere new and somewhere different. And this is why eventually the price alone isn't going to keep people coming back. So what do restaurants do? They change their menus. They don't just play with the price. They prefer not to actually. They change their menu. First of all, they disguise a change in price. And because they're changing their menu or giving you specials or whatever, then you don't feel like you're missing a lot. They might decorate differently for the season. They might change their uniforms. They might change the music. They're changing something other than the price because they're concerned that your marginal utility over time is going to drop for them. This is what we try to do when we are equating marginal utility per dollar. Now, do we stop there and do all these calculations? We do not. We have an instinct about it that says, I am more satisfied, I am less satisfied, I will buy 2 of this, but I will buy only 1 of that.